never run out of things to say ever again. Have you ever been in a conversation with everyone, it seems to be going all right, and then like a minute, 2 minutes in, it just dies?
I'm dying.
And then you're both kind of standing around looking like, what do we do now? The energy drops, the replies get shorter, you're scanning your brain like, what can I say next? What can I ask next? Quick, hurry up before we both look awkward.
This is awkward.
So you ask another question, an irrelevant question that they answer, and then you go back to standing around looking. And then you kind of just awkwardly walk away and thinking to yourself, ew, what the hell just happened? That was awkward. That experience of having a conversation with someone and it just gets really awkward and dies and goes nowhere is so easy to fix. And the reason it keeps happening is probably not what you think. In this video, you're gonna learn exactly why it happens, and you're gonna learn a super easy framework that I've used for the past few years that make conversations not only fun, but can go and last as long as you want.
Haha.
But before we get into it, if you're new here, my name is Brian Bradshaw. I'm author of the book Accomplish Anything, and I'm founder of The Social Edge. And on this channel, we talk about communication skills, confidence, and charisma. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Okay, so why do conversations just get awkward and just die out? There's really 3 simple reasons. The first one is basically, you're not having a conversation, you're really doing an interview. When you're in a conversation with someone and it's starting to die out and you can feel the awkward tension start to rise, your instinct is to just ask another question, then another, which you think is helpful because you're continuing the conversation, and hey, at least the other person is still talking. But from the other side, it starts to feel like an interview or an interrogation.
I'll have some questions for you.
Maybe you just met this person, and now they're being interviewed by someone they don't know, and it's not going anywhere, and it's not contributing anything to them. And people pull back from that without even being able to name why. The second reason is what I call the finite topic list. Most of the people approach conversations with like a mental checklist of things to talk about: work, family, travel. And as they're burning through those topics, the awkwardness starts to rise because they're like, oh, conversation's coming to an end. What else do I talk about? Right? And once they've gone, say those 3, that's it. There's nothing else to talk about.
That's it.
And while you're in mid-conversation, you know you're running out of things to ask. So the stress, the tension starts to build up. It creates this quiet sense of desperation in you, and the other person can feel it. And they know, even if they don't know why it's happening, they feel the conversation getting awkward. And number 3, probably the worst and most common, is divided attention. You're talking to someone, you're asking questions, you're having a conversation, but half of your brain is thinking about something completely different.
Hello? Anybody home?
It's running this unconscious background check. What should I say next? Are they bored? Do they not like me? Is anybody else watching? Who else is here? How do I get out of here? And that background process that your brain is running is consuming the mental bandwidth that you actually need to have a good conversation and connection with somebody. Because here's the thing, the conversations aren't dying because you don't have anything to say.
What? Nothing to say?
It's dying because your brain is too busy scanning itself to figure out the next thing to say. And none of this is a personality problem, it's a mechanics problem, which is a good thing because there's a fix and it's actually pretty easy. Here's the shift that really changes everything. Most people think of a conversation as just a series of topics or bullet points that they need to hit. You finish one topic, okay, we're done, let's go to the next topic, and so on until we run out of topics and it's awkward, right? That model makes a conversation feel like a finite resource. Again, once we're out of things to say, now what do? We just stand around and look past each other. But that is not how conversations actually work. Good conversation isn't just a series of topics. It's a single thread that keeps branching off in a lot of different directions. And everything somebody says has multiple branches, multiple off-ramps you can take to keep this conversation flowing. Here's an example. I was just speaking at a conference and somebody came up to me and we were talking about how they had just gotten back from a nice vacation in Tulum. A nice vacation in Tulum. One quick sentence, millions of different ways to take that conversation. Ooh, Tulum. What made you decide to want to go there? How long were you there? Where did you stay? What did you love about it? What did you hate about it? Would you recommend going? Who did you go with? What did you eat? How was the weather? Most people hear, say, Tulum and think, oh, travel. I've traveled, I can talk about travel. That's one topic, but it's not one topic. It's one thread with multiple different branches, multiple different ways to take the conversation. And each one of those branches has branches of its own to go. The conversation was never running out of content. You just couldn't see it. Here's the reframe, and here's what I really need you to take home from this video. You are not running out of things to say. You're running out of branches to take the conversation. And once you get good at this, once you start noticing these branches, conversations stop feeling like a finite resource or a bullet point checklist that you have to go through, and they actually expand and can go on forever. Forever. Because every sentence that some person gives you, there's multiple ways to take that conversation. And one really important thing before I give you the actual steps, because this is super critical, most people go into conversations trying to be interesting. That feels like a good goal. To be interesting, to be liked, to make a good impression, to come across well. But framing it like that puts all the attention, all the spotlight on yourself. How you're landing, how you're coming across, how you're doing.
How you doing?
And that is exactly what feeds that self-monitoring and kills conversations. Flip the goal on its head. Instead of trying to be interesting, try being genuinely interested in them, in what they're saying, in their experience, in the threads underneath what they're saying. You cannot be self-conscious and curious at the same time. I don't care what anybody says, it's impossible. They occupy the same mental bandwidth. The moment your attention is fully on them and what they're saying, all that background monitoring and processing goes away, and conversations open up automatically. This thread method works specifically because it gives you somewhere to place your attention. So here we go. 5 ways to never run out of things to say, keep a conversation going, keep things fresh and fun. Step number 1 is tune in. Stop listening for your turn to speak and listen for the threads. When most people say they're listening in a conversation, you know they're not listening. They're just waiting their turn. They're coming up with their own things that they want to say to what you're saying, and they're waiting for you to stop so that they can blurt out their point, which means they're only half listening. And because they're half listening, they're missing most of the threads. Tuning in means listening to what's underneath what someone's actually saying, not just the words.
Words? Words, dude.
When someone says, oh man, I've been really stressed lately, they hear stress. I've been stressed before, and that's all they hear. But underneath that statement that they've been under a lot of stress, there is multiple threads. Stress from what? Like stress from work, stress from home. You know, what kind of stress? Emotional stress, physical stress? How's it been affecting you? You know, can you sleep? Have you eaten? You know, what's really causing it? How long has it been building up? Tuning in means hearing all of that and picking one thread. It sounds really simple, and it honestly really is. It just takes a little bit of practice. But it also eliminates self-monitoring entirely, because when you're listening with intention for the threads, you cannot self-monitor because your attention can only go one place, and that's the person you're having a conversation with. Step number 2, hook the thread. Identify the thread that you want and stick with one. And there's 2 ways to do it. One way is factual, right? Just the facts. Who, what, when, where, why.
Just the facts, if you don't mind, ma'am.
Earlier we used the Cancun example. Someone says, you know, they were on vacation. Where did you go? When did you go? Who were you with? Where did you stay? What did you eat? How did you get there? What did you think about it? Just the facts, that keeps the conversation going, although really on just a surface level. The second kind is experiential threads, right? What surprised you? What was the most frustrating thing about? What did you learn from this? What did it teach you? What do you wish you knew before you went? These experiential threads, these are what build genuine connection with somebody, because they're revealing how someone actually thinks. They are where conversations go from just something on the surface to something really deep. So the factual threads are always there. They're always easy to default to. But the experiential threads, those are the ones where you really want to focus your attention on, because that's where conversation really becomes interesting for both people. Step number 3 is to reciprocate. Share something very brief, your own experience, your own opinion. Right? We can ask a lot of questions. We'll never run out of questions. But by doing the reciprocation, we break that pattern of us always asking. It's really simple to do. After you've asked a question, after they've responded, instead of going right to the next question, you add in your own little 2 cents. You add in your experience or your perspective briefly, right? This is not the time to go off on a story or go on a monologue. Something real and brief. We're looking to transform the conversation from an interrogation to an exchange, because now there's something in the middle that's real for both of us. And it puts the other person at ease and makes them more comfortable because you've put something on the table for both of you. That vulnerability is mutual, even if it's just at a small scale. One thing from you, briefly, and then invite them back into the conversation. Question, response, brief perspective, repeat. Step number 4, expand with observation. Now here is the secret sauce. Truth be told, I did not invent this. I learned this from, well, you probably can't see it, the greatest book on conversations that I've ever read, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. In that book, he teaches the conversation technique, labeling and mirroring. If you've never read that book, I cannot recommend it highly enough, and you should go do that right now. And here's how you do it. Instead of following every thread with another question, you use a sentence that starts with one of these. It looks like, it seems like, it feels like, it sounds like, right? We'll stay on the vacation example. Somebody just went away for a week to the Bahamas with their family, and they took their young kids or their parents with them. And you could respond with something like, it seems like spending quality time with your family. That's something that's really important to you. We're looking for that, what's underneath the words, underneath the emotions of what they're talking about, to really get to the real them, the core of them, what's in their heart. Observations do something that questions can't. It really, more than anything else, shows the person that you are listening and you care.
Thank you for listening.
You're inviting a response from the other person without demanding one, without even asking. You're just making an observation about what's beneath the surface about what they're talking about. It's basically an invitation for them to really open up and go deep with how they really feel.
I'm going deep, 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 deep.
Way more than just another question. A conversation with good questions is good, but it can also make you feel like a journalist. A conversation that mixes questions with observations makes the other person feel like you are genuinely engaged and you care about them. The difference is massive, and it really can't even be put into words. I can do a 2-hour seminar off the cuff about how powerful this labeling and mirror technique is. I have to give full attribution, it's not mine. Again, Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. Read that book. Maybe I'll do a video in depth on it later. Maybe I won't, I'm not sure. And the last step, step 5, direct the conversation. Shape where the conversation goes and end it at the right moment. When you get really good at conversation and really start having fun with this, you stop reacting and you start really directing where you want everything to go. And there are 3 moves here. The first one is called bridging. It's where you naturally and comfortably move the conversation to a different area. And here's the line, it's very simple. That actually reminds me of something and that's it. Something that happened yesterday, something that happened last week, that actually reminds me of something I ate yesterday, that actually reminds me of what we were talking about last month, right? You're not just cutting off the conversation and jumping to another topic. You're using that little line as a bridge to open up another door and take the conversation somewhere else. The second technique is called pivoting. This is where you return back to something that's worth revisiting. And here's an example line you can use. I've been thinking about something you said earlier about that's a polite way, you're not being rude, of stopping the conversation where it's at, bringing it back to something else, and it shows the other person how much you were actually paying attention. And that alone can have you leaving the conversation and having them feel even better about you. And the last one, something I do or try to do every single time, is close the conversation, end it on a high note. End the conversation on a smile or a laugh where the energy is high. Don't wait and for the energy to fizzle out and then you do the old, well, I guess we're done here. When you end the conversation when it's at its peak, you leave them wanting more. And if you wait too long and you wait till the conversation is past its peak and then it dies, then you've missed the entire point of the whole video. Know when the conversation has reached its peak, and you be the one to leave. Okay, so those are the 5 steps. Now, how do you actually incorporate this into your life and build the skills so that you can have conversations that just go on forever and ever as long as you want? Don't try to implement all 5 steps at once, because honestly, you don't need to. You really only need to focus on the first step. So for the next 24 hours, the next 10 conversations you have, it doesn't matter the context, it doesn't matter how long the conversation is, tune in and listen for the threads. Moments in the conversation, topics that you can splinter off and go into multiple different ways and ask a lot of questions and really dig deep. Right? Don't actually do it yet, you can if you want, but just listen for the threads. Just a few days of that, I guarantee you it's going to change how you see conversations immediately. Right? The content was always there. Now you're really tuning in to find it. And once you get really good at finding the threads and it becomes automatic, like you don't have to think about it, the rest of the steps just kind of happen automatically because you've actually solved the real problem. Not that you were running out of things to say, but you weren't seeing all that's available. Again, conversations hitting a wall at 90 seconds isn't about you being boring or running out of things to say personally. It's about a model. It's about treating a conversation like a list of topics or a list of bullet points that you have to hit. Doing it that way runs out of content every single time. Switch the model to what you just learned. Every sentence they give you is an opportunity for a thread that you can pick up on and take the conversation. Your job isn't to think up the next topic to bring up. It's to listen to what's already been said and take it from there. Doing this well means conversations will never really end until you decide it. I hope this gave you a new way of seeing conversations and having conversations with people. And I want you to go out and try it and let me know your feedback down below how it's working out. And if you'd like to go much more in depth on this topic, I have an article on my Substack link down below. Please give it a click and read it. And if you've made it this far to the end, again, I thank you. I drop a new video each week. See you in the next one, and please consider subscribing.